New Zealand. Hare Krishna. So we're going to have to be a little bit quiet this morning with the kirtan because we are in Paris. We are staying in an apartment and there are sleeping souls all around us. And although Lord Chaitanya's movement is to wake them up, they're not quite ready to appreciate that, some of them yet. At least not in the way of physically being woken up at such an early hour of the morning on Sunday. As you know, in the Western world at least, generally people like to sleep on till late hours of the morning on Sunday. So we're going to be a little bit quiet with the kirtan. You can be as loud as you want, or as loud as you can be. Anyway, Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutalam Vimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Devasesha Talayavadi Astyacharishataye Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Devasesha Talayavadi Astyacharishataye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Radha Madhava, Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yasodanandana Rajajananam Yasodanandana Rajajananam Namo Natira Gopijana Balaba Giridharadhari Gopijana Balaba Yasodanandana Rajajananandana Yasodanandana Rajajananandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Jaya Radha Madhava Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtota Srishta A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki and to go to Vaishnava Ki Nama Acharya Shahiyasa Thakur and Sikho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giti Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Ganga Maya Ki Yamuna Maya Ki Vilasi Deva Ki Bhakti Deva Ki Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Lord Chaitanya Harinam Sankirtanam Ki Brihat Mudanka Ki Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Gauranitai Ki Shri Krishna Balaram Ki Shri Radha Govinda Madhava Ki Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Shri Radha Parameswara Ki Agora Premanand. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to the sultans. All glorious to Sri Guru and all glorious to Sri Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Ekasesha Srimati Om Jnana Timarandasya Niranjana Shlakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Kapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Vidamayam Vidati Shvabhadatikam Panchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhivyavicha Patitanam Pavanebhyam Vaishnavebhyam Namo Namo Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So good day, everybody. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 24. Sikananda Prabhu was putting on the screen, I think. Is that right? Or somebody is. Rohini Nandan Prabhu. Today's facilitator is Rohini Nandan Prabhu. Sikananda Prabhu is in India, and he's at the Govardhan Eco Village in Maharashtra, and he's there for a few weeks, I think. That's his marathon this year. Prabhupada marathon. So here we have it. Text number 24. Kindly repeat. Partivad daruno dumas. Partivad daruno dumas. Tasmad agnis trahi mayaham. Tasmad agnis trahi mayaham. Dhammasastu vajastasmat. Vajastasmat. Sattvam yad brahmadarshanam. Partivad daruno dumas. Tasmad agnis trahi mayaham. Dhammasastu vajastasmat. Sattvam yad brahmadarshanam. So we'll just read the word for word there. Partivat, from earth. Darunaha, firewood. Dumaha, smoke. Tasmat, from that. Agnihi, fire. Trai, Vedic sacrifices. Mayaha, made of. Tamasaha, in the mode of ignorance. Two, but. Rajaha, the mode of passion. Tasmat, from that. Sattvam, the mode of goodness. Yet, which. Brahma, the absolute truth. Darshanam, realization. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Firewood is a transformation of earth, but smoke is better than raw wood. And fire is still better. For by fire, we can derive the benefits of superior knowledge through Vedic sacrifices. Similarly, passion, rajas, is better than ignorance, tamas. But goodness, sattva, is best, because by goodness one can come to realize the absolute truth. And purport by Srila Prabhupada. As explained above, one can get released from the conditioned life of material existence by devotional service to the personality of Godhead. It is further comprehended herein that one has to rise to the platform of the mode of goodness, sattva, so that one can be eligible for the devotional service of the Lord. But if there are impediments on the progressive path, anyone, even from the platform of tamas, can gradually rise to the sattva platform by the expert direction of the spiritual master. Sincere candidates must, therefore, approach an expert spiritual master for such a progressive march. And the bona fide spiritual master, expert spiritual master, is competent to direct a disciple from any stage of life, tamas, rajas, or sattva. It is a mistake, therefore, to consider that worship of any quality of any form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is equally beneficial. Except Vishnu, all forms are separated, being manifested under the conditions of material energy, and therefore these forms of material energy cannot help anyone rise to the platform of sattva, which alone can liberate a person from material bondage. The uncivilized state of life, or the life of the lower animals, is controlled by the mode of tamas. The civilized life of man, with a passion for various types of material benefit, is the stage of rajas. The rajas stage of life gives a slight clue to the realization of the absolute truth in the forms of fine sentiments in philosophy. Philosophy, art, and culture with moral and ethical principles, but the mode of sattva is a still higher stage of material quality, which actually helps one in realizing the absolute truth. In other words, there is a qualitative difference between the different kinds of worshipping methods, as well as the respective results derived from the predominating deities, namely Brahma, Vishnu, and Hara. End of purport. So this interesting verse, firewood is a transformation of earth, but smoke is better than raw firewood, and fire is still better. For by fire we can derive the benefits of superior knowledge through Vedic sacrifices. Similarly, passion, rajas, is better than ignorance, tamas, but goodness, sattva, is best because by goodness one can come to realize the absolute truth. So this verse and the purport can be seen from various angles. We can take it literally. In other words, as the verse describes literally and indicates Vedic sacrifices, you cannot perform Vedic sacrifices with dry wood on its own, neither with smoke. Even if the wood is somewhat warming up, it's smoking, it's not burning. The Vedic sacrifice requires blazing fire. Of course, when the wood is very wet, it may smoke a little bit, but it has to be dry in order to be blazing fire. So in our hearts also, this example can be seen. When our hearts are still, you could say, inclined towards the materialistic world, then the blazing fire of devotional service does not fully ignite. In this way, we cannot extinguish the material desires in our heart by pouring water on at the same time as we try to ignite. And it can also be seen when Prabhupada discusses these verses. Sometimes he discusses it from the angle of practicality speaking, that you cannot cook with wood alone. You put your pot on a pile of dry wood, it may be potentially fire, but it's not fire, it's ignited. And you can leave your pot on there for years, it still will not cook. Even smoke will not cook. You may warm it up slightly, but it's not going to cook. You need the blazing fire in order to cook. So from a practical point of view, fire is required. Smoke is not enough. Smoke is not at all enough. But to speak of dry wood or firewood itself, the transformation of earth, everything is a transformation of earth. All objects are in one way or another a transformation of earth. So that's not enough. You can't cook just by putting the bottom here. Of course, it's the sun blazing down, that may be something else, but not just by the earth alone. There has to be fire. The fire element has to be manifested. Spiritual element within us also has to manifest under certain circumstances, as described in this verse here, how one has to come to the mode of goodness. Or rather, in the purport, particularly Prabhupada is referring to the previous verses of the second chapter, all by approaching an expert spiritual master, Sri Dansya Vasudeva Katarishi, by serving those devotees who are free from all vice, those who are pure devotees, those who are Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describing and discussing this verse, describes the word sattva, and it indicated in Prabhupada's purport that this word sattva infers in its the fullest extent. We're referring here to Shuddha sattva, not just sattva. Sattva generally refers to the mode of material goodness, but in order to attain the platform of liberation or freedom from this material condition, one has to come to pure goodness, Shuddha, Vasudeva state, Shuddha sattva. So he refers this to, infer rather, Shuddha or Shuddha sattva, pure goodness, purified goodness, which the previous verses to this indicate how, with this practical process of receiving expert guidance from the expert spiritual master, one makes progress step by step, developing a taste for spiritual life, and losing the taste for material life, and a regulated execution of devotional service, faithfully, submissively, and gradually the effects of the mode of passion and ignorance are evaporated or dissolved. They're removed. By this process, the spiritual master releases the living entity from this bondage, this knot of entanglement in the material world, by absorbing him in the fire, of devotional service. The blazing fire, as Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita, is likened to a blazing fire. When one absorbs oneself under the expert direction, we could read that in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, as it refers to this point of the expert spiritual master, you could say. If we go to chapter number 4, text 36, 35, 34. One should try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. His self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because you have seen the truth. That knowledge is the knowledge, as we see in the 13th chapter, the knowledge which releases one from bondage in this material, releases one from the three modes. That knowledge, beginning with humility, in other words, one accepts the direction of the higher authority of spiritual master. And Prabhupada describes in the purport extensively that at the end of the long description of items of knowledge, Krishna says that these items of knowledge, and anything contrary to this, is ignorance. Knowledge is not just knowledge of the effects or the phenomena, it's the knowledge of how to realize the absolute truth. And it does include knowledge of the absolute truth, but it primarily, depending on the stage we're on, it's knowledge which will help us to actually become eligible to realize the absolute truth. So as we see from the expert spiritual master, according to the position of the aspirant, the spiritual master will give different instructions. Krishna goes on, having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme. In other words, that they are mind. With this knowledge, one will get that realization that every living entity is spiritual above the modes of nature. Right in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was advised by Krishna, Trigunya Vishavidin, Strigunda Arjuna, rise. The Vedas mainly deal with the three modes. Rise above these, be transcendental to them, Arjuna. Don't become infatuated with the modes of nature, which the whole world is. completely captivated by the effects of the mixture of the modes, entangled in various actions and reactions in this world. Even if, Krishna goes on, you were considered to be, in reference to Prabhupada's statement in the purport, to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of misery. In other words, when a devotee, that when one is situated in devotional service, although one may not be on the platform of liberation, one is considered in the liberated platform. The devotee is situated on that boat of devotional service and cross this great ocean of the modes of nature and the material nature, no matter what the condition may be, and the effects of the modes of nature may be. One who is fully engaged, Mamchayogya Vicharana Bhakti Yogena Sevate Subhanam Samtitetam Brahma Bhuya Kapate. When one is thus transcendently situated, fully engaged, one who is fully engaged in devotional service and is no longer interested or bewildered by the material energy, but fully engaged and can transcend these modes, can be fixed in devotional service. This is a process to be fully engaged under the direction of the expert spiritual master. And then Krishna goes on, as a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all the reactions of material activity. The reactions to material activities is basically speaking, one is placed under the control of a combination of the modes of nature. Ignorance is the predominating, you could say, influence within this material world. Everyone is in basically ignorance of identity, ignorance of just about every truth you can think of. Some relative truth, maybe awareness is there, but that's, again, very shallow in terms of its overall position. What to speak of spiritual truths or the truths of karma, or the truths of time, etc., etc. Very, if any, vague, mostly speculative idea of what is going on. But one who is actually in knowledge can see things as they are. He doesn't have to take help from experimentation or even mundane perception, but with spiritual vision, they can see things as they are. The eyes are spiritualized, and things become clearer. Similarly, you could take this example of the verse itself. When smoke is there, everything is very cloudy. Everything is cloudy. When the blazing fire comes, everything is cleared up. So the mode of ignorance is so dull, there's nothing going on. There's neither perception, nor there is, practically speaking, the perceiver is so dull, they're almost unaware of perception. So that of course is likened. In the purport, Prabhupada doesn't get into it too much, but he does mention that this is generally the lower species of life, in the mode of ignorance. But in another, it's interesting in the Vedic literatures, there's so many examples of three. Krishna is also known as the Lord of Threes. He's the Lord of Threes. And we see this, the Lord of three planetary systems, the three modes of nature, the three primary energies. You can go on and on, the three Purushas. There are so many threes. There are so many. You get the three, Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, he's the Lord. You get so many threes. The list is very long. So here we see that there are three modes of nature, and generally speaking, the species of life are predominantly dominated by one of those particular modes. And in the very, very lower species of life are the, not even the animals, basically, totally in ignorance of the non-moving living entities. They have practically no conscious awareness of hardly anything, very, very, very shallow. Beyond them are the stones, which have even less rocks. inert living entities. And then the moving living entities, there are some of those, that at least there's an introduction there of passion, still predominantly ignorant. There's no idea of spiritual existence or anything more than just eating, sleeping, mating, depending, but there's slightly, the mode of passion becomes a little more. Then the mode of human life, or the species of human life, they vary from animalistic to very elevated, but generally speaking, it's more the mode of passion driving them forward in their lives. And they also have a little bit of cognition to maybe think beyond just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, to a higher, perhaps another purpose in life, religiosity being basic foundation of the, say, human life in terms of evolving to a higher level. But still, predominantly human beings are in passion, very passionate, trying to enjoy the senses, enjoy the world around one. But they're in ignorance still in ignorance of their identity, they're in ignorance of what's right and wrong, and they have some guidance from religion, supposed to be, but they're not following it in general. So the religious principles are there for human beings, so there's some regulation within the passion to gradually elevate the soul to a slightly higher level of consciousness. Now, we could look at this from another angle, another way, and look at the effects or the symptoms of these various modes, which we'll do now a little bit. We'll look at that if I can find that page. I don't know where it is gone. I have no idea where it is. Seems to have evaporated somewhere. Oh, it'll be up here. Okay, so let's have a look at it a little bit. The characteristics of the three modes. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, there are two specific chapters dealing with the three modes. The 14th chapter is specifically entitled Three Modes of Nature. But in the 17th chapter, we also find a lot of reference to the effects of the three modes of nature, or the symptoms of the three modes, and how different persons under the influence of the three modes behave. But we'll start first, we could say, with the characteristic of the modes, more than the actual symptoms of them, so or the behavior therein. The symptoms of the modes. Okay, let's have a little look at the characteristics of the modes first. In the 14th chapter, you can read it yourself. But starting with verse 14:6, we find happiness and knowledge. This is goodness. Let's look at goodness first. The result of goodness, happiness, knowledge, as we see in the verse today, it helps to liberate the soul, free the soul from not just the reactions of this material world, so that one feels happiness within its freedom from sinful reactions, etc. But ultimately, it gives the soul the opportunity to see things higher than the material world, to come to transcendence, to shoot that. As the previous verses in the Bhagavatam describe, the stage-by-stage elimination of the effects of passion and ignorance, and finally mundane goodness, one comes to the transcendental platform. So freedom from sin, happiness, and knowledge which will help to elevate the soul, and happiness which is not born of sinful activity. The gates of the body, we find a few verses later, are illuminated by knowledge. Sometimes this verse is a little mystifying to people. The gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. You mean the anus is illuminated by knowledge? What does it mean? Maybe we can understand the mouth or the ears or some eyes or something. The anus, it's sometimes a little mystifying. What does that mean? When one passes stool, instead of comes out Hare Krishna or something? No, that would be interesting. But no, that's not the meaning. It means that one is, basically speaking, what one thing is easy to understand, one is utilizing the gates of the body in devotional service. And even when it comes to the various organs, whether it's the genital or the anus or whatever it may be, there's no, one's behavior, one's habits are in the mode of goodness. Therefore, one's passing and stool and urine, everything. And of course, we're not going to get into the graphic details here, but they're more and more purified, regulated, purified. Even we hear, even the odor therein is more purified. But basically, one gets one step beyond that. It means one doesn't eat abominable food and abominable liquors and various things like that. But rather, one regulates one's life. One eats food in the mode of goodness, of course, devotionally offered to Krishna, and so on. So in that way, the organs, the digestive organs, and so on, are considered to be also engaged like that in the mode of goodness. So one's whole body, mind, everything is illuminated. And then what else we got? Here's another one. And this again, Prabhupada doesn't directly infer in the purport, but he indicates the process. One can attain higher planets of the great sages upon death. One who's in the mode of goodness. So that's the gradual progress of working up to this higher level of goodness. In passion, we see unlimited desires and longings. Unlimited, they never end. Now, we're not referring necessarily to devotional desires, which could also be, depending on the motivation, but unlimited desires, unending. They just come, as Krishna says, like rivers into the ocean, or waves on the ocean. They never stop. They keep flowing, they keep flowing, they keep flowing. You can't stop them. You can transform them, right? Maybe rise above them, whatever, but you can't stop the flow of desires into the heart. Fruit of action, one's always acting to get some returns. People work, study, everything, even play, wants to get some result. Of course, everyone wants to. Naturally, we're fruited. Naturally, we're looking for pleasure. There's nothing directly wrong with that, but that's not the goal of life. Is not simply to work to get material returns, as is the case in most people. Great attachment, people become intensely attached to everything, from whatever it is, their hairs, to their money, to their family, to their country, to their whatever, sports team, everything. And, it become basically our life is monitored by those attachments. We become so affected due to our attachments. Intense endeavor. We work so hard to try to achieve these goals in life, whatever they may be. We're willing to endeavor so hard. We may not be willing to endeavor so hard, Prabhupada said, for spiritual life. He said, just like we see sometimes businessmen, they never stop. They're working day and night to achieve whatever it is they want. And they said, if we could only have the spirit that they have for mundane things, for Krishna consciousness, we would be rapidly progressing. The uncontrollable desires, the desires were in the mode of passion. I don't know, maybe they try to control them, but they cannot. But sometimes it's not even a control. It's just, that's it, go for it. Uncontrollable desires, they burn fire, blazing fire, very hard to control. Or like as Arjuna uses the word, like the raging wind, very hard to control. Raging, constantly hankering for something which we don't have. Modern society has created no end of opportunities, objects to become attached to. And one takes birth amongst fruitive workers upon death and stays in the platform of passion. So the goal, materially speaking, would be to come to goodness, and through passion by acting. Now it's interesting to see that Arjuna is generally considered to be as a king. They're in Rajagun. Kshatriyas are in Rajagun. But the point being is that they elevate by following Sattvagun. They act as their nature in Rajagun, but they follow the directive of Sattvagun by following the Brahmins and Shastras in society. This way, anyone can become elevated when society has fallen the Brahminical head. That's the gradual process of elevation from the lower modes to the higher mode. And for ignorance, well, there are differences. When we say madness, it doesn't just mean clinically mad. It means mad in so many different ways, completely oblivious to the effects of what we're doing, and for intense identification with the situation we're in, and so on. Various kinds of madness. Indolence and sleep, very lazy and sleepy, and can care less. Who cares? It's very lethargic. No drive in life practically. Hanging around all day long. See them, the extreme ones, of course, lying on the street. Hardly move. They sleep there all day. There are some people with not one little distance from here, but on the other side of the city a little bit there. There's one guy, and there are many of them. There's one guy who used to walk by him every day. He doesn't move. I don't know if he even moves to pass stool and urine. He's covered by boxes and bags and everything and anything. He's just there all the time, day and night. And he got a little cup in front of him for begging, and people sometimes give him things, I think. But it's like, so much in the world of ignorance, the human species anyway. And sleeping, most of the time he's asleep. Darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion, similar to previous description. And what happens if someone in that mode of nature, it's lucky they attain the animal kingdom upon death, they go down, maybe even darker, depending on how much or what they do in their lives. So recognizing the specific modes of nature, pretty important to recognize them. And basically we just more or less, those verses more or less describe that, so you can see by the various characteristics more or less which mode of nature is working. Now bear in mind that when we say, oh, this person's so and so and so and so, this is just the present conditioning of the modes of nature. It's not actually the person. It may be related, of course, to their particular state of consciousness, no doubt, but it's not the person. It's still material. It's still an illusion to say someone is big, someone's knowledgeable in the material world, someone's wise, somebody is beautiful, someone's strong, someone's a man, someone's a woman. These are all, no doubt, different effects of the modes of nature. And one may label a person like that, but they're actually not proper identifications. They're just like the dress in the dramas, and we may give someone a title, but that's not them really. So the whole idea is not just to come to goodness, but one who's in goodness is to rise to the higher level, transcendental mode. By Prabhupada says here, one gets the good fortune to meet a expert spiritual master and take guidance, no matter what mode of nature one's in. One can rise to the transcendental platform above these various modes of nature. That's the goal. And there are symptoms, of course, of one who is also above the modes of nature. That's described also. Krishna asked, Arjuna rather asked that question. Where is that question asked? Forgotten, the 4th or 5th chapter. What are the symptoms of one who's above the modes? No, 2nd chapter he asked that. 2nd chapter, verse 59. He starts with 59. What's that verse? Vishaya Vinivartan Tenara. From that verse onwards, he describes the nature of those who are transcendental, above the modes. We'll read that later if we want to. So it's indicating or seeing the symptoms is pretty valuable to know what modes of nature we're in and what modes of nature others are in. And it's not the person either. It's just the conditioning due to the karma of a living entity under the influence of the modes at that particular time. And then see what the effects of these 3 modes are. The effects of goodness results in purity. Purity, just like fire, blazing fire with no smoke is very pure. Develops knowledge, higher planets. Well, basically, that's already covered in the previous ones, but it's just more specific. And passion ultimately results in misery. We see Krishna describes the happiness, the various modes of nature have a good mode of goodness sometimes. May start off not so easy, just like you go to college, you have to work hard to get a job or something. You have to perform some austerity for a higher purpose, a little bit of suffering to attain a higher happiness. Whereas those modes of passion, it's eventually they lose it. Maybe very joyful in the beginning, but eventually it becomes miserable because you lose it. That which you're depending on to get your pleasure is lost. So it turns into misery. Those in the mode of goodness is the other way around. In the beginning, it might seem like poison, but in the end, it's like nectar. Whereas those in passion is the other way around. Those in ignorance is misery in the beginning and end. It's just misery altogether and foolishness, as states here. In passion, also, one develops intensive greed. Doesn't develops any kind of higher knowledge, but one becomes greedy for multiple things. So, something went down. What was that? What was it? And if you're lucky, in mode of passion, you'll get to the earthly planets. Come to the earth. I think the plug came out of the wall. Yeah. Huh? I don't know. I think we've got enough battery. Yeah, we're fine. I think it's the earthly planets. So higher planets for goodness, earthly planets. And for those in ignorance, it's pretty simple. Develops foolishness, madness, and illusion again. It just becomes completely dark. You try to approach somebody in ignorance of Krishna consciousness, it's like talking to a brick wall. It just doesn't click. They don't even notice it. They walk by like an animal practically. Those in passion might come a little bit closer. They might like the dancing and singing and whatever, something they may like. Those in goodness will sincerely inquire and be ready to take it on. They want it. I'll not say they want it. Many people in goodness don't want it also because they're still not in pure goodness, of course, but they have other idea of spirituality, or they've got some mundane kind of concepts, good life, new age, whatever it is, somewhat mundane, and not understanding the real goodness or the real value of spirituality. They have their own concept of it. So it's very, very rare, even if one is in goodness, to take the Krishna consciousness. It's rare. But there are many living entities who are inspired by the Lord to come forward there in that right point, even if they're not in the mode of goodness, whatever mode they're in, somehow or another, the good fortune of meeting a devotee awakens in their heart some kind of an attraction, and the devotee's intense compassion helps to awaken that desire within them, or that decision within them. So then you find that even not just the symptoms, but there are practical aspects as well. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, different foods are described according to the modes of nature. Whatever mode, when different persons will be attracted to certain foods, they'll be attracted to certain places, towards different people, and so even species of life, occupations, everything can be seen in relationship to the modes of nature. So that's one way of looking at this effects or symptoms of the modes of nature. Now, in the purport, we find that Prabhupada spends some of the time there discussing another aspect, which is more the faith of the living entity, their worship, their kind of worship, or where they place their faith. Of course, those deep in the mode of ignorance, they place their faith in that mode. Everyone places their faith in the particular mode that they're in. But then Prabhupada takes it to another level, where he describes, this is described in the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, if we turn to the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we can see this is called Divisions of Faith. And there we see that Krishna says, if you want to follow text 2, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of 3 kinds: in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now hear about this. So Krishna is telling Arjuna here about it. O son of Bharat, according to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. So basically, people are in that situation. They're completely conditioned, controlled, according to the mode of nature, to put their faith in various things and have no faith in other things, whether it's politics, economics, war, music, religion, you name it, gender, everything these days. And the only chance of a change they're in, when one's in such condition, is if there's an external, of course, the Lord can do anything in the heart, but generally it's an external influence. By association, we change our faith, not happens materially. One changes from one lifestyle to another, one religion to another, this and that, by association, past or present. And the spiritual change has taken place also totally by association. So association is the key factor. Now, when there's condition, of course, naturally will be inclined towards associating with such and such a situation. So human society is arranged in such a way, traditionally, Varna Ashram, to help, even though the living entity is naturally inclined towards a certain directive, or certain activity, and so on and so forth, is arranged in such a way as to gradually elevate the living entity from one level to another by various environmental arrangements, directions to follow within the modes, association with those who are more elevated, and so on. So they can gradually become elevated through the modes of nature. That's one thing. Environmental association of sadhus would always avail themselves to give themselves to the people in general, so that people could actually start to develop some attraction towards the spiritual life. And then Krishna goes on. Otherwise, they just remain in that mode for the whole of their lives, and just move on to another life form which is more appropriate to that particular level of consciousness. Men in the mode, Krishna then says, men in the mode of goodness worship the demigod. We usually think they're in the mode of passion, but here it says demigods. Those in the mode of passion worship the demons. That's quite easy to understand. They worship in this material world, persons who are materialistic. They don't even worship demigods. They worship politicians, famous people in history. Okay, in general here, obviously many people have a religious side to them, and they to some degree worship saintly persons, but their general inclination is to idolize materialistic personalities. They're very attractions to those in the mode of passion. And those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. Maybe they don't seemingly or knowledgeably worship anyone, but their behavior is a result of such activity, worshipping the Bhutas and so on and so forth. The mode of ignorance, living entities. So these are different types of worship. Those who undergo, so then Krishna goes on to explain different types of austerities and penances and the various modes of nature. Different living entities are attracted to certain types of activity indicative of their position with the modes of nature, and goes on describing so many different aspects of the three modes of nature. Prabhupada primarily discusses the form of worship in the purport of Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma. Generally, Brahma is worship. His mode of passion, although not so many people worship Lord Brahma, maybe. Lord Shiva is very much worshipped. And so also are many of his expansions, like Kartikeya, Mugam, and so Ganesh was his consort, Mahadevi, Parvati, Amma. They're worshipped by most people because they want material returns. That type of worship will not release the living entity from the modes of nature. It's very smoky. it will continue. We will continue in the haze or the smoke of this material world, even if it is on a higher planet, enjoying it more delightfully. We're still in ignorance. We're still covered by falsity. We're still in the clouds, you could say. So they may worship demigods, various kinds, but the worship of Lord Vishnu is not the same. The worship of Mukunda, the giver of liberation, by worshiping Kama Sava Kama, Moksha Kama Udapi Tibena Bhakti. Those who are recommended to everyone, no matter who they are, whatever mode we're in, whatever our philosophy is, we should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, it doesn't mean that's going to immediately show transcendental effect. We're worshiping always to have material motivation, so it takes time. But by placing one's faith in Krishna or Vishnu, one can gradually become purified and gradually give up, as we see someone like Dhruva Maharaj, who initially had great material ambitions when he approached Vishnu. But as he practiced the process of worshipping Lord Vishnu, he became freed of material motivation. And eventually he had no material motivation. He just wanted to engage in serving the Lord. He got the darshan of the Lord. Good result of worshipping Lord Vishnu. Of course, it was offensive in that worship, that's something else. Consciously offensive. But this is the process of those who worship the demigods. They almost invariably ask anyone, why are you worshiping? Invariably for material returns, for some material fruitive result. Money, wealth, education, health, and so on. Physical returns, heavenly planets. Physical returns, those in the mode of ignorance is usually degrading, horrible desires. So like that, different forms of worship. Anyways, it's just a few angles of looking at you would say, the meaning of this verse, the practical understanding of this verse, both from the literal side to you could say the comparison with the modes of nature and the activities a living entity performs, and the type of worship that this living entity is inclined towards. So by understanding the workings of these modes of nature, one can get freedom from them also, described in the 14th chapter to some extent. But that means that one understands that they're all working, Maya Dikshina Prakriti, that they're working under Krishna's direction. They're not independent. They're all working under Krishna's direction. With the body, we can read the last words of the 14th chapter. 2 verses. One who engages, one who engages in full devotional service in all circumstances, that one transcends the modes of material nature and comes to the level of Brahman, who says, I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is a more immortal, imperishable, and eternal, the spiritual platform, and it's a constitutional position of ultimate happiness. Here it is. If we go back in the 14th chapter to text 19, when one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work other than the modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. So this knowledge of seeing that everything we see in this world is a result of the modes of nature. It's the modes of nature working, not with a witness. Of course, our desire is related to, and our interaction with the modes of nature in the past is resulting in our present. But still, it's the modes of nature working. And it's not the living entity as such. So when we get upset and this and that with a living entity, they're under a particular mode of nature which is not compatible with our mode of nature. It's not the person, it's actually just an ignorant passenger within the vehicle of the mind and body. When the embodied soul is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, it can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. So when we transcend these modes, understanding how they bind and how they release preferences, how they bind the living entity in the same way how they can release the living entity, and understand their relationship with the Supreme Lord, and the one can become freed and attain ultimately our experience, even nectar spiritual experience. Where one sees Prabhupada said this world as being like Vaikuntha. One experiences happiness even within this apparent world. Heavy step. They're going to finish there. We're getting ready now for the Prabhupada Book Marathon. Well, one of the reasons we're in Paris. I hope that many of you around the world are also hoping to participate in this annual event since the early 70s. In all ISKCON temples, I don't say that that's the case now, I don't know, but it was, and there weren't so many ISKCON temples in those days. Mostly it was just in the Western world that, and there was practically no community outside of the temple at that time, no congregational community. So it was 90% probably devotees living in the temple. Young, healthy, somewhat crazy, and very enthusiastic, dedicated to pleasing Srila Prabhupada. The whole idea of this marathon is, if you look at it in many ways, the whole idea is to please Krishna, which is the very purpose of our existence. By activities which please Krishna, one transcends the modes of nature. We don't necessarily know what pleases Krishna, so we hear from somebody who does. The expert spiritual master gives us these instructions, and the expert spiritual master has definitely given us the instructions to distribute books and to read books as well, by the way. Both are there and equally important. So in terms of, you could say, our mission, the distribution of transcendental literatures is the fundamental basis of everything we do. Whatever activity it may be, it's founded on the fact. It's founded on the books, and it grows by the expansion or the distribution of this knowledge through transcendental book distribution, particularly. Purity is also a key factor in being instrumental in that happening. So therefore, hearing, chanting, everything is important. But the practical activity, especially at this time, we're just getting ready. It used to be called the December Book Marathon. Now we're called the Prabhupada Book Marathon. A bit more spiritual sounding. So there's a golden opportunity for every one of us to take part in this great yajna. When there's a great yajna, pretty much everything's engaged, all the people take part. So this is the greatest yajna, Sankirtan prayer, the greatest yajna, this Sankirtan movement, distributing Krishna praying through the form of Sankirtan, chanting the holy names, prasadam also, and transcendental literatures. Whether it's done this way or that way, but somehow or another, a message. Of course, it can be electronic also, but it's no comparison, I'm sorry to say, but there's no comparison to the book form. I'm not sorry to say, I'm glad to say. There's no comparison to having these transcendental literatures in one's home, in one's hands. Many reasons, I won't get into them, but there's so many. They're deities. Robert said they're deities. You're having deities in your homes. You could say your mobile phone is a deity, I suppose, but it's not quite the same. That's for sure. You see those books on your bookshelf, Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's like, there's like effulgence coming out of your bookshelf, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, so on. It's just like the sun shining in your room. But, you can worship those books, practically speaking. Pick them up any time. It's just wonderful index, look through This is wonderful, wonderful, purifying our whole abode. And anyone who comes to your home can see it there. And they can see it, they can pull it out. If they come to your home, they might see your mobile, but they're not going to pick up your mobile and start reading Srimad Bhagavatam. When they come into your home and you got the books, any guess what are those books? Wow, what is this? I've never seen anything like it. I don't say, maybe they say that about your mobile if you've got the latest Apple iPhone or something, but not because you got the Krishna's pastimes downloaded on there or the Bhagavad Gita. When they see the book, it's just something really, it's real. It's like real. It's a real thing. So just doing these books is Prabhupada said to go on and just go on and on and on. And there are other forms of distributing of knowledge, but it's not quite the same as having the actual book there. So try to take advantage this month to put aside some time for distributing, or some way, think of some way to distribute books. You may not be inclined or able to go on the street or door to door or whatever it may be, but at least we can think of some way of sharing these books of Srila Prabhupada with others. Friends, gifts, mail, whatever, somewhere. See if we can all participate. It's a family business. There's a beautiful book by Shri Shikha Prabhu called Our Family Business. I recommend everyone to get it. It's called Our Family Business. I think it's available probably in your local temple. If it's not available, ask me. I've got plenty of copies. It's called Our Family Business. It's a beautiful, beautiful book, most enlivening book. It's not just, and now you say this, and now you say that. Now you put your hand up, now you put the book. No, it's not at all. It's the very life of book distribution. It's the life of it. It's the spirit. It's the spirit. It's not just the law. Sometimes we put all the emphasis on the law, but it's the spirit of the law that counts, not the law of the spirit. Spirit over law. So yes, the spirit of book distribution is the very heart of book distribution is based upon the process of devotional service and the realization therein. This is a form of worship, puja, distributing books. It's incredible experience. I know when sometimes you go out, you feel like, oh my God, why did I come out here? And nobody wants the book. It's cold. I've done no book in 3 hours. And, just people are saying, buzz off and get a job. And even worse, much worse things. You're a cult and so on. You guys are this and that. Sometimes that happens, but not very often, but sometimes. And it can be, oh, what am I doing here? And take association of those who are a little bit more, say, accustomed, more fixed in Sankirtan. That helps us tremendously. Go out as a team. Many of us going out together. It's fun. It's exciting. Have your Saturday weekend warriors or Saturday Sankirtan festival or something. Get out there, distribute the books, chant Hare Krishna at the same time. It helps, by the way. Have prasadam with you to give out. Make it a festival. This way it becomes not just, that's not a passion. We want the result. We want the result. You could say, I wanted to see books for Krishna's pleasure. But the Krishna says not attached to have results. Success or failure, we're attached to the service. But when we're still affected by passion, and we are affected very much by the result, whatever form it takes. But don't become disheartened. Be a team. We go as a team. Try to engage and involve others in devotional service. It's fun. It's great fun. Okay, well, I'm going to knock off there because we do have a few things to do today. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask. To the time I am going to be affected with How can I remain unaffected by them in all circumstances? Thus remain focused if possible. If time allows, can you please guide? Adorena Prabhu from Delhi. Well, we're in a situation mostly in the world today, which doesn't really facilitate rising above the three modes of nature. Rather, we're in a world today which wants to entangle us in the three modes. You see, and especially in the lower modes, you see advertisements, social media, full of do this, do that, pictures of beautiful girls and different things which look very attractive, mostly in the mode of passion and ignorance, sometimes a little bit in the mode of goodness, but completely captivating. Take this, do this, eat this, eat. They were surrounded environmentally with such distractions, you could say, entanglements. So that's first thing, environment. Try to surround yourself as much as you can. Obviously, if you're working, studying, and doing things of that nature, then the situation may not be so easy, you could say, for that. But at least when the opportunity is there, instead of having pictures of mundane pictures, instead of going on to mundane social media, go on some transcendental pictures. Make one's home, make one's room like a spiritual room, like a temple. And when on social media, for instance, try to go to positivity, not negativity, that which is favorable for developing our attraction in Krishna. There are, I'm sure, many places where that is favorable. Don't waste your time on those which are basically just social. We need to do a certain amount of that. Basically, those which will really help us to surrender to Krishna, to develop our love of Krishna. So it's on one side, environmental association, try to associate with devotees who are more serious about Krishna consciousness, who don't waste their time in frivolous talk. Coming from India, I know a lot of devotees are conditioned by cricket, for instance, and in the Western world by soccer. These are, what can you say? They coat our conscience. They bring smoke. It becomes smoky, and we can't see things clearly. So that's one thing. Try to make a clear or pure environment in one's life. And on the other side, the positive side, mantra yoga, vicharana, one tries to keep it engaged. Now, different devotees will be in different positions, and many of us are probably working outside. So we try to see, as this verse today is dealing with the modes of nature, we try to see everything in relationship with the modes of nature under Krishna's direction, how people are controlled by the modes of nature, how the various modes of nature are working in various ways in our environment, and so on and so forth, and how everything is ultimately Krishna's energies at work here. So we try to do that, be conscious of that situation, be conscious that everything is in fact the spiritual energy of the Lord in one sense. At least be conscious of its relationship with Krishna. And on the other side, there are three sides. This is an interesting situation. Normally we say two sides, but this has three sides. So on the other side is our spiritual practices. If you focus on your spiritual practices, many times our chanting of japa is best passionate, often ignorance. We're not even sure if we chanted our rounds or if we're even chanting, or whatever it is. And other times it's just passionate, get it out of the way as quick as we can, with the mind thinking of 1,000,001 other things at the same time, or we're doing 1,000,001 other things at the same time. And while we're driving on a mobile, this thing, that thing are going on. So that type of chanting is not going to help protect us very much. Very little. Something, maybe little teen, something, keep us going. But when our chanting is focused, when we read Prabhupada's books before we undergo our whatever it is we have to undergo during the day, and we try to hear from Krishna, from the pure devotees, try to hear Krishna, the name of Krishna's name, sound of his name, or try to hear him, this will help us to be focused during the day and to see things in relation with Krishna and not be overwhelmed by the different challenges we may face during the day or the temptations that come our way. So good sadhana, good hearing and chanting, make your environment as favorable as possible. Avoid negativity within our lives as much as we can. Can't totally over. Seeing everything in relationship with Krishna. Prayer. Pray that we not fall under the modes. We read Prahlad Maharaj's prayers. They're very profound. He's praying like this, that he not fall under the influence of the modes of nature. So they're very valuable to pray. It is with the help of the Lord and the pure devotees that we're protected. We haven't got the strength to protect ourselves. Krishna is the protector. To take shelter of Krishna. We can. No one else. This is his energy. How can anyone else? It's Krishna's energy. If we take shelter of Krishna, he can adjust the energy easily. Protect us from being overwhelmed. Next one. What is the importance of studying Shastra in one's spiritual development? Possible to develop bhakti without the knowledge of the Shastra? No. Not with somewhere or another. The knowledge of Shastra has to be there. Either we ourselves have adopted it and are applying it, or we're working under somebody else who has. And that may also have the purifying effect. But ultimately, knowledge, like the sun, enlightens everything. When you're in the sunshine, there's no darkness. When you're in the fire of devotional service, there's no darkness. There's no ignorance, no Maya. Now, devotional service probably does say something. In different places, you have to study. Some places, not everyone is inclined towards study, but usually speaking, the two go on hand in hand. You have to hear. In other words, without hearing, we don't know how to act. So hearing is also, that's what it is. We're hearing knowledge pertaining to Krishna consciousness. If we don't hear that, how will we know how to act? How will we know how not to act? One has to have some degree, wherever much it may not be a scholar, but we have to be able to hear. So that humility is the first principle. So that is knowledge. That is knowledge. Knowledge is not just learning a whole bunch of information. Knowledge is much more than that. It's a science of knowing what is relevant, applying the right thing to achieve one's particular goal. And knowledge of the goal also is required. Otherwise, you won't know what the goal is, even if we haven't realized it. But at least the devotee should know the goal is Krishna. The goal is devotional service to Krishna and his devotees. And at least the devotee should know this is the process to attain it. And no, certainly, definitely knowledge has to be. If we don't hear, how will we know that meat eating is not favorable for devotional service? Some people say it is. We have to hear from the right source to know it's not favorable. Maybe in the beginning we don't make a big thing, but if we want to progress, then definitely some adjustments have to be made. We don't know what they are, then we'll still remain in our stage of ignorance. Knowledge is absolutely required to remove ignorance. Even in devotional service, we have to know what is favorable and what is unfavorable in devotional service. Very important. Krishna could do anything, but that we can't expect an honorary degree. That's not usually the case. We have to do our work. So to do our work, we have to have, even a sweeper of the street has to have knowledge what to use to sweep, where I'm supposed to sweep, how to sweep, what to do with it when I've swept. So much knowledge is required. It's not very much quantitatively, but it's knowledge which is essential for his particular service. So we have to have knowledge. Studying Shastra, Prabhupada says it could be studying Shastra, it could be hearing others explain the Shastra. What are the Shastras saying? They're giving us direction, how to sever the knot of attachment in this world. So we have to hear that. We won't know what to do with the knife. If we're not taught how to use the knife properly, we won't know what to do with it. We may misuse it, which is what most people do in this world. They misuse it. And their knowledge, unfortunately, is misknowledge in most cases. They're being taught they're the body, they're being taught we're meant to enjoy, they're being taught that economic development development is essential. They've been taught that it isn't essential. It's not the goal of life. They've been taught imperfect knowledge, so-called knowledge, but it's imperfect. By these so-called leaders who have no idea what the goal of life is. They're not getting real knowledge. The real knowledge is essential to clear up the doubts. It illuminates everything. So real knowledge is very, very important. And that comes either studying the Shastra or hearing the conclusion, whatever it is from those around us who we have faith in. And I think that's it. Okay, we're finished there today. Thank you all very, very much this morning or afternoon or evening, night, whatever it is. Have a little kirtan and a Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaur Premanandi Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glorious to all the assembled devotees. All glorious to Srila Prabhupada. All glorious to Harinam Sankirtan, Transcendental Book Distribution, and all other forms of devotional service. Jai. Hare Krishna, everybody. I wish you all a wonderful marathon this year, and we hope that you'll be very blissfully engaged in spreading Krishna consciousness to whatever degree you can during the next weeks and years ahead of us in our lives. Thank you all very, very much. Jai Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol, Hari Bol Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Maharaj,
Hare
Hari
Krishna.
Bol.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol.
Hare Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj Ji, Dhanpana Maharaj Ji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.